Good morning and welcome to Today in LA. I'm Bill Rice Jr. He is Forrest Lee. We are subbing for Mr. Mike Amos, who is in Birmingham at his daughter's house, Mountain Brook, actually. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well everywhere we speak. Of course, we're coming to you live on Facebook. Is that right?
That's what I'm told.
Yeah. You're in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains there in Jefferson County. And,
That's right. And it wouldn't be much of a hike, to get to the Appalachian Mountains. But it's beautiful mountain. Of course, people that have never been to Birmingham, it's a lot of mountain tops here. So high inclines everywhere you go.
Don't you think that North Troy might be the end of those foothills because Troy has, in Pike County, North Pike County has some real high elevation changes noticeable, and then you get south of Troy, it's flat.
When you top that hill,
you're right.
When you top that hill coming from Luverne and you going, toward the Conecuh River Bridge, then all of a sudden it's a pretty steady incline coming into Troy.
I love the area up around Lockheed Martin. There's some big hills and bluffs up there. It's pretty. I've always thought that'd be a great place to put a golf course somewhere up there.
We're waiting for Mike Amos to call in from Grace Beach. Have y'all heard from him yet?
Not yet. Hey, Mike, quick question for you and Bill real quick. Who is an all-star alumni that played baseball? He was a wrestler and a football player at Pacelli High School.
At what high school?
Pacelli High School in Columbus, Georgia.
What was the first part of the question?
He starred as a wrestler, a football player, and a baseball player for Pacelli High School in Columbus, Georgia.
But how did the people in the world learn about him? What was his claim to fame?
Well, his name is Jason Gregory, the owner of
Jason Gregory.
Jason Gregory. Right. And actually, he's, of course, one of our best sponsors. He owns Premier Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep Ram of Troy. But yesterday I drove to Pacelli High School. A friend of mine, Clint Sanders, who coaches at Dodge County, Georgia, this year has a sanctioned high school flag football championship for girls. And Clint was playing Eagles Landing, and next Tuesday night they'll play again in Pacelli at Pacelli High School. So I went to the first playoff flag football game in the state of Georgia for a high school championship.
So you drove to Columbus, Georgia yesterday. Did you go by yourself or did he go with you?
No, I went by myself, and then after the game I had someone take a picture of me with the Pacelli
so
monument.
You drove up to Columbus, Georgia by yourself to see that
I did.
game.
And I took a picture of myself in front of Pacelli emblem and sent it to Jason. He said, "What are you doing up there in my backyard?" I said, "Well,
you're right. That's a trip, man. But now you can go back roads. Did you go up the interstate, or did you go back roads?"
Well, I went back roads going up through Josie and Blues Old Stands and Aberfoyle and Union Springs. Then I went through Hurtsboro. And Clatahatchee, then I hit 431 right there at Seal. But on the way back, I went to Opelika, 85 down to Pike Road. Of course, I saw 2 or 3 deer going in coming, but I just knew I thought I'd see less deer going back through Opelika than I would going back through deer country.
Let me ask you a trivia question. Who's somebody that's...
This time of year, that is as pretty a ride as you'll make anywhere.
It is beautiful.
Who's somebody that's famous that that used to live in Opelika?
Billy Rice Jr.
Gary Colley.
Yeah. Opelika.
Yeah, Opelika, you're right.
All right, let's see. Hold on, let me get Mike to see if I got to put this on hold.
Bring Mike in.
Good
morning, Mike. We're going to put you on hold and bring you in with your dad.
Conference
is right there in the middle.
Conference. And conference again.
And hit 1.
All right.
Hey. Welcome, Michael.
All right. right, let's all report in. I'm Mike Amos.
Roll call.
To you from Mountain Brook, Alabama. Where are you, Mike?
Can you hear us, Mike?
Mike Amos, you.
Well, he's online.
Hello.
Michael, can you hear us? I guess not.
Okay, right now he's not on.
He can call. I guess he can call back, but the line is showing that it's working.
Okay.
Mike, can you still hear us?
Nope, now we're on.
I did it again. Mike, let's go. Mike. Oh, no. Mike. Can you hear us, Mike? Mike. Hello, Michael.
Right. We can't pick him up. We'll have to
Okay.
wait a few moments. Of course, some
He's not blinking.
bad news.
Okay.
The bad news yesterday. Former Alabama football coach and All-American Ray Perkins died at his home yesterday.
Yeah. He was living in Northport, but he's originally was born in Petal, Mississippi, and of course he played for the University of Alabama for the years '64 and '65. He was a team captain in 1966, was an All-American in 1966, but he was on 2 national championship teams. It should have been on a third because in 1966, Alabama was the 2-time defending champion, but they were not named national champion.
Started the year number 1, went undefeated, and blew out their bowl opponent, and still finished 3rd in the country.
That's right. That was when
we're gonna try it again, Mike.
Michigan, it was Michigan.
Hello, everybody.
Can you hear us, Michael?
I keep on bouncing in and out. I was hung up on all day yesterday. I don't know what's going on with the phone.
Well, we
got you this morning.
Good morning, Michael. We're talking about the passing of Ray Perkins. He was I graduated from high school in 1983. Coach Bryant had just retired and passed away, and so Ray Perkins was the football coach the years I was at Alabama, and so very sad to hear about that.
He was a guy that didn't smile a whole lot, but he was a very serious-minded coach and player. And of course, I can remember this: him as a player. He was a great receiver. He was born number 88, and he could fly. And against in the Orange Bowl was when Steve Sloan was the quarterback. He was a star receiver on that team. And then the next year in the Sugar Bowl, he just lit it up as a receiver, catching 2 or 3 touchdown passes thrown by Kenny Stabler.
Yes,
Alabama went undefeated that year, and like y'all mentioned just a while ago, they ended up not winning the national championship. They gave it to 2 teams that tied. Michigan State and Notre Dame tied, and I reckon they gave it to Notre Dame. I want to say,
yeah,
the championship to Notre Dame.
One article I read this morning, Mike, is that he knew he was leaving a great team of the New York Giants, but he felt an honor to come back to the University of Alabama. And right after he left the Giants, Bill Parcells took over, and they won a couple of Super Bowls. Of course, Coach Perkins won a Super Bowl in I'm not sure what year it was, but he won it with the Colts as they defeated Dallas in Super Bowl 5. And but when you've been coached by Bear Bryant and Don Shula, and you've coached with or hired Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, and Don Cornell, that's a pretty good career and influence.
I think he needs to get credit too. When he came back to Alabama, believe it or not, the facilities were in bad shape, and he built that indoor. He was also the athletic director, and he built that indoor practice facility. He built the coaches' offices, and did some other things that kind of brought Alabama up to the standard facility-wise that it needed to be. And then Mal Moore continued that when he became athletic director.
I'll tell you one mistake he made, and really did not go over very well with Alabama former players and fans. Was he tore the tower down? You know, the tower that Coach Bryant was walking. He oversaw all the practices from this giant tower on the practice field. Well, Perkins tore that down. He went. There was a lot of disagreement from Alabama fans, and he got off on a bad foot right there. Of course, he ended up winning 32 games and lost 15. He had a pretty good career.
Well, another story is during the sophomore year, there was a terrible collision in practice, and he was rushed to the emergency room. They drilled 3 holes. Of course, this is talking about Coach Perkins, and he was told not to break a sweat for a year, but he attended every practice, and he was contemplating about, trying to return as a kicker. Well, the story says that Coach Bryant brought a brand new pair of cleats to him, and he was cleared to play. Of course, the rest is history. But when he got cleared to play, he put his helmet on and hit his head against the wall several times to check to see if he had any problems. But then the rest is, history. But he almost, and Bear Bryant was quoted as saying that he wasn't worried if he would play football again. He was worried if he would live.
I read that same. I read that same article by Joe Goodman in AL.com, and he had one mistake in there. He said that Perkins was handpicked by Bryant to be a successor. That's not true. Bryant, he was asked by Joab Thomas, the president, to recommend 3 people that could be the next coach. And Perkins was one of the names he recommended. The other was, of course, Gene Stallings, and I believe Richard Williamson was the third. And Coach Bryant he deferred to the president. He didn't think it was his position to name the head coach. And plus, he probably didn't want to play favorites of all the great candidates of former players and assistants he had. But it was Joab Thomas, and as everybody really knows, who the Bryant family and Coach Bryant really hoped would get the job was Beebe Stallings, who eventually did get the job and did a great job. But Coach Bryant obviously respected and admired Ray Perkins and supported him.
Of course, on down the line, I can remember at one time Alabama had a coaching change, and Bobby Bowden wanted the job, and they made him mad when they asked him to come in for interviews. Can you believe having the interview with Bobby? This is on down the line. This is when they hired
Curry,
yeah. But that's old news. But
who played
again,
with Perkins?
In the lawsuit
yeah.
of Ray Perkins.
Yeah, I met him a couple of times, and he did have that stern demeanor and the steely blue eyes, but he could also be charming. And when you got to know him, he had a different side of his personality, as all his former players say. So the demeanor we saw, and wasn't necessarily what those that were close to him saw.
He could fly. Let me tell you something. He had great speed. He ran 9.9 on the 100-yard dash, and that was real fast back then. 9.9, and he might have gone low as 9.8, but he was a real fast receiver. Something I always noticed that he always caught the ball in his hands. He was a great receiver.
Well, we've lost Coach Dye, about 7 or 8 months ago, and then Ray Perkins, and they had some great games against each other and roughly the same age.
And I don't know if they were good friends or not, that they were such competitors, and everybody wanted to be Bryant's favorite coach, But of course, the rest is history, and we lost Pat Dye, we lost the Tennessee great coach.
Mike, we're going to put you on hold. We're trying to get Michael back. Okay.
Michael, did we get you back?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the phones. I was trying to talk to you about yesterday. We can't do two people on the phone right now. It doesn't seem like. I don't know what's going on.
Well, we got both of you right now.
Well, hurry up and give us some of your knowledge while we got you. What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, I was trying to mention, a few years ago, he went back and coached at Jones Community College. He went 15-5. I think he quit the job at 70. But I was reading a lot of articles yesterday from Bill Parcells, the quotes, and Bill Belichick. A lot of those guys, some people consider some of the greatest coaches in the NFL, credit Perkins on their career. So he's got high praise throughout the football community, to say the least.
There is a nexus from Nick Saban to Paul Bryant. And that story kind of hints at it. A coaching tree nexus. It was Ray Perkins, who played for Bryant, was a great player. He hired Bill Belichick, who went on to be a Hall of Fame coach, and Bill Belichick hired Nick Saban. So,
well, here's some of his coaching gigs. He was at Mississippi State as an assistant, the New England Patriots as an assistant, the San Diego Chargers. Then he was named head coach with the Giants for about 3 years. Then he came to Alabama for about 2 or 3 years. Then he left Alabama to be the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then he was the head coach at Arkansas State. Then he was offensive coordinator with the Patriots, offensive coordinator with the Oakland Raiders, tight ends coach for Cleveland, running backs coach for Cleveland, and like Michael said, was with Jones Community College. And starting in 2014, he was a volunteer at Oak Grove High School in Mississippi. And he's in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. So
I know when he coached at Cincinnati, Troy beat them in that game. He didn't have a real lot of success after he left Alabama, but then he got that lucrative pro contract.
Yeah, he's like a lot of coaches. If he had it to do over again, he probably would have stayed at Alabama. You look at Franchione, Bill Curry, Ray Perkins. They all had by far their greatest success at Alabama. There's a reason for that. They seem to be better coaches when they're at Alabama for some reason.
It says LSU stuff.
go ahead, Michael.
Perkins is the guy that brought in Belichick and Bill. I don't know which one came first, but he gave a lot of people the opportunity to coach in the pros.
This is a very crazy story here. LSU self-imposes a one-year bowl ban for 2020. Like anybody wants LSU in a bowl game this year.
Yeah.
They're trying to get ahead of the possible probation that's going to be coming up here. Maybe by the end of the year, LSU could go on probation for 2 or 3 years, they're saying. And they're going to self-impose a bowl ban, kind of like Auburn self-imposed sitting out the NCAA tournament this year in basketball. The NCAA is going to have the final word on all of this.
You know, Forrest mentioned that before we came on the air, and the LSU things, we all heard of Beckham, their great wide receiver that literally passed out money after LSU won the national championship. So that's the violation that's gotten all the attention. But the one that gets my attention is what Forrest uncovered is that apparently LSU gave a player's father a $180,000 job where he didn't even have to show up.
That was a booster.
A booster? That's a pretty serious violation right there, if that's true.
And another violation was illegal contact with a recruit by Ogeron. And, you know, they've already taken 8 scholarships from themselves for the next couple of years, I believe, in football. So, but they're still in the top 5 in recruiting.
Y'all know what you're telling me? You're telling me LSU had what many people thought was the best football team ever assembled in college football to now to shambles. Isn't that unreal? In 1 year,
Yeah.
You went from being the best program in the country now to a team that's in shambles.
Well, you had players that
today,
players that opted out.
Do you think they're supposed to play Florida this weekend? Do you think they'll Yeah. Will he be the coach or what?
Yeah, he'll be there.
He has not been fired, has he?
No.
No, they're not going to fire him. I mean, he basically tried to win at all costs and paid a bunch of players and did a bunch of things the wrong way and got a national championship.
Plus,
Now the question is the NCAA going to take it away from him?
plus, there's a blacker cloud coming about the allegations brought on by women that is still under investigation, and I'll leave it at that.
Well,
It's-
it's
it's
similar.
out
It's
there.
similar to the Baylor charges of abuse of women going on involving players, which is awful. But then what makes it really disconcerting is the allegation that the coaches or the administrators were aware of this and did nothing about it.
All right. Very, very important here. Allegations. We
Allegations.
don't know for sure.
Allegations.
Yeah, but they've been public. I mean,
guys, we just read about it in the paper and wonder what's going on.
USA Today did a big story on that.
Well, I mean, there's lawyers involved. We're not saying something that didn't. It's not going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw another article
Okay.
to change the tune, sliding over to the coast of Alabama, to Mobile. But there's two early favorites for the University of South Alabama job, and it was reported in one of the ESPN or Alabama.com, one of the two, or CBS, that the defensive coordinator for Indiana, Kane Womack, and Alabama running backs coach Charles Huff are the two leading candidates for that job. And number 3 and 4 are T. Martin from Tennessee and the safeties and co-defensive coordinator at Alabama, Charles Kelly. So those are the top 4 as of an article that was written today.
Don't you think it
I
seems like
tell you what, I've never heard of any all of those. T. Martin sounds like the most logical of picks because he's from there. And of course, he was quarterback on a national championship team at Tennessee. But he is. You would think that they would want a hometown boy that knows the ropes down there.
Well, Kane Womack at Indiana, he was the defensive coordinator at the University of South Alabama in 2016 and 2017. But those two names, Womack and Huff, are the two early favorites. And I would suspect that South Alabama is going to increase the coaching salary from $600,000 a year up.
they got the money. It's hard to come up with the money these days.
Troy coaches make around $750,000, so I would imagine they're going to try to at least get around that range. You know, there's a guy that is close to Troy's program. Of course, he went to West Virginia. Got a home at Orange Beach or Gulf Shores, probably down there right now. I would definitely hire Vic Conan as the defense coordinator at South Alabama.
Yeah, he's a very good coach, no question about it. And of course, everything you would think that Alabama, now has their own stadium. The program is not great, but it's building every year. And now they need a leader. They need a real good leader that's been a head coach, that knows how to win. That's so important.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned several Alabama assistants. Don't y'all think that just about if you were an assistant at Alabama, you were going to have a lot of head coaching opportunities? I mean, if you're just the cornerbacks coach, special teams coach, it doesn't matter. I don't know how Saban keeps refilling these slots with all the coaches he loses, but he does.
Well, that's the one thing about Clemson. They don't lose their offensive defensive coordinators and hadn't in a long time. I guess they like it where they are. And that's, if you don't have to replace your offensive and defensive coordinator, that's one less thing you have to concentrate on. And
I bet you if you looked into it, that Clemson pays their assistants more than most people do. I would think that would be the case.
well, when you go to Clemson, let's talk about them and Notre Dame. That ACC championship game will be played at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, you can have 7% capacity, which is 5,200 5,240 fans will be at that ACC championship game. 5,200. 7%.
That's the Notre Dame
Clemson
game. Is that right?
Well, that's 5,200 more than we'll have in the Rose Bowl in the semifinals.
Yeah. But
How many are they going to let in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta? You know, Michael, for the SEC championship game?
That holds about 90,000, so I guess they'd probably do around 20%.
20 to 25.
In the Georgia Dome where the Falcons play?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it held about 75,000.
The old one did.
Okay.
I'm looking at Auburn bowl projections. Some analysts have Auburn going to Citrus Bowl and playing Northwestern on January 1st. That wouldn't be a bad bowl game.
And another one I saw was the Armed Forces Bowl, and it would be either, like I said, Northwestern, could be Washington, Wisconsin, or Iowa.
Let me ask you a bold question. And Michael, Mike, you're good friends with somebody that knows more about bowls than anybody. What are actually one of the reasons the players like to go to these bowls is they have a lot of special events for them, see the town and a lot of junkets. What are the players going to be able to do when they take these trips with COVID? I mean, it seems like they're going to be restricted in their bubbles to their hotel rooms and the practice field to me. I mean, in other words, for the players, what's the great appeal of going to a bowl game this year? I mean, normally you take a trip to Disney World or a lot of.
They usually make money going too, don't they? Don't they get travel stipends and stuff like that for bowl games, Dad? If they drop down. And...
That right there was the way that a lot of these players get a little income out of being a college player because what they do, they give the player the amount of money that it would take to travel from their home to the bowl game. They'll pay them that in cash instead of going to university. So that's sort of a way that they can make a little money.
Well, you see, there's always big dinners at fancy restaurants and competitions with the other team, or they go to some bowling alley or amusement park. I'm just don't think any of that stuff can happen this year.
Well, look at the fan base. They won't be able to travel. That's one thing that they look forward to doing. And let's go on a family
exactly
trip.
Right. And the band can't go pretty much. It's a mess. It really is. It's really a tough situation.
I think the whole argument for the bowl games then is that it gives programming for ESPN. It's a made-for-TV football game, just one more football game.
I said something the other day, and it might not sound very big, but you take the tournament of Roses Parade from California. What a huge event that is every New Year's Day, and they've canceled it completely.
Yeah.
Just so much of the fanfare and the that goes with college sports is really being hurt right now.
You know what I've noticed? Go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead.
Well, I
was just reading an article that's interesting to me because UAB is playing Rice this weekend. UAB has not played college football in over a month, so they're playing Rice. You upset Marshall. Actually blew out Marshall 21-0. Marshall was undefeated. UAB will play Rice this weekend with 25 players out due to the coronavirus.
Wow.
Oh,
UAB?
And where will they play that game, Mike?
It's at Rice.
Okay, that's right.
Will the new stadium be ready next year at UAB?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They say it's going to be.
They've already, Dad, you can go look at it today. You're in Birmingham. It's beautiful.
How many will it hold, Michael?
I think we will.
55,000.
Oh, that's going to be if we can just, I tell you what, I'm going to start eating black-eyed peas now.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now.
We got to have a change.
Look out for UAB's program. When they get this big, beautiful stadium located in a tourist district in Birmingham, they're building restaurants. I mean, it's going to be a great venue for college good coaching staff. You know, with some of these jobs coming open, you would think that he'd be mentioned all.
You read my mind, Mike. I was thinking the same thing. Why don't we hear more about Bill Clark?
Well, I'd give him another year or two. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit for that new stadium and what he can do from there. Of course, I don't know Bill Clark personally, but he's one of those dynamic personality type coaches, and look what he's helping do at University of Alabama.
I agree that you have the possibility for UAB to take it to the next level, but they lose a good coach, and that fan base, which you've seen their interest in the past, you also have the chance for a monumental flop of this beautiful $200 million stadium where 55,000 seats with 18,000 people going to the games.
Well, if Bill were to ever leave, Coach Clark, I believe people would fly to that job at UAB as well with that new facility coming. But
one of the bright young coaches out there, I say he's young, but coach at Charles Henderson is his offensive coordinator, Brian Benson. He is a bright coach himself, an outstanding offensive coach at UAB.
Yeah, super nice guy,
too. He coached at Charles Henderson High School for 4 or 5 years and put that offense in. They ran that same offense at Charles Henderson.
He was ahead of it. He was ahead of his time. Those teams were fun to watch. Coach Fountain and Coach Vincent's teams.
One thing I do want to mention: prayers for Steve Garrett, who was our baseball coach at Charles Henderson. He's had a little flare up and is doing well. But I've read it on Facebook and I talked to his father-in-law. But Coach Garrett had a little health scare. But I want to offer prayers for him and his family. But he's doing well.
Coach, his nickname's Levi.
Well, his son's. He's got a son in pro baseball, and wanted to mention
his son made his major league debut last year for the Florida Marlins.
He went 1-1.
He is an outstanding baseball man, no question about it. I want to say his mother still lives in Troy.
I think so.
And his in-laws, he's got some in-laws that live in Troy.
Well, I texted Pam Edenfield, Amos Edenfield yesterday, and offered. I hope everything turns out for you. Of course, her son Kenny coaches at South Alabama, and his birthday.
Her husband.
Her husband. And I said, happy birthday to the Louisiana man. Kenny's from Louisiana, played at Troy, but anyway, she said thank you.
That Steve Campbell being fired at South Alabama will have several coaches that have Troy ties.
Yeah, well, when Coach Brown came to Troy, he retained Coach Edenfield.
Oh yeah,
if you remember. And
hopefully that'll be the case here. But I say that it will affect this new coaching change will affect several Troy coaches. I mean, whether or not they stay there with the program or they have to go to another position somewhere.
Well, I mean, Campbell's won everywhere he's been, though. I would think Campbell could go down to 1AA or to Division II and get another head coaching job. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah, I think he is too. And something that really surprised me about him, I thought he was an option of a high backfield type coach, but they were pretty much wide open at South Alabama.
It'll be interesting to see all the coaching openings that may develop, and I just don't think that these programs have the money to do the buyouts they have. Maybe they do in the past, but I mean there are some big jobs that might come open. Michigan, heck, maybe Texas, heck, even people talking about Gus Malzahn at Auburn. So the next couple of weeks will be interesting.
The Texas coach has scored a bunch of points. This is a good example of what you got to do. Here his job's on the line. Well, didn't he score 70 points against somebody? Texas, they've been scoring a lot of points. And I don't know if it's safe to.
He had only done that 1 week though. He scored 69. The week before, he only scored 20 against Iowa State. Got beat.
Yeah, but his offenses were starting to get better though, weren't they?
Well, I mean, you got Sam Ellinger. I mean, he's a great quarterback. You know, dual option guy that can run and throw, but he just doesn't know how to win a big game. That's his issue the whole time he's been at Texas. If Texas can go get Urban Meyer, you go get Urban Meyer. That's what I say.
Yeah, I would think so too. And that they could pay for it without any props too. You know, they've got lots of money. How about Troy? Let's talk a little bit about Troy this weekend. You know, they've got a big game with Coastal Carolina. Hopefully that game will go through. The 2:00 kickoff from Veterans Stadium in Troy is the Coastal Carolina undefeated against Troy University. Wouldn't that be a huge win if Troy could upset them?
Arguably the biggest win in Troy ever, since Coastal Carolina's ranked number 11 in the country, which no team ranked that high has ever played in Troy before.
Right. And
yeah, they're actually they're 13 in the playoff committee as well.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what really counts.
Yeah.
It would be some great national attention for Troy if they could pull the upset.
Yeah. Well,
would Troy storm the field if they upset Coastal Carolina?
Oh, hey, listen, they would not only storm the field, they would get those goal votes on both ends of the field if they beat them.
Yeah, I hope we have enough fans to do that. That's what I'm concerned about. Since
that's the case.
Yeah.
Troy,
Well, the students
you gotta have somebody. You gotta have somebody that jumps. You gotta have someone that jumps up on top of and weighs them down.
Yeah.
Well, Troy kicks off at 2. Alabama kicks off at 11, so the Alabama game should be pretty much over by the time Troy kicks off. That's good. When does Auburn play? Do y'all know?
Yeah, they play at 6:30 against Mississippi State on the SEC network.
All right, so
Well, that'll be a good game to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a good window for Troy. Is right between the Alabama and Auburn games too. So another reason, a lot of reasons to want to go support the Trojans in this big game.
No, the Lady Trojans were just.
Keep up with the time. Keep up with the time, though. That's one issue Troy's had a lot this year, which has been a good thing. A lot of their games that were on ESPN Plus have got bumped up to ESPNU, ESPN2, ESPN, the mothership. So keep in mind, if some of these other games start getting canceled, the Troy game could go on
That's
at
right.
a different time. That's happened a few times this
Exactly
year.
right. Well, this is a game, not only a Sun Belt Conference game, but of course Troy's playing for a possibility of going to the bowl. They say now for Troy to go to the bowl, they'll have to win both those games, beat Coastal Carolina and Louisiana Monroe. That's going to be hard to do.
Oh, we can do it. Troy found their groove last week. Got a lot of players back. Had a lot of COVID protocol issues that kept players out, like in the bad loss to Appalachian State. So gotten a lot more players back, more time practicing, a bigger scout team. All of that adds up to Troy putting a better product on the field, I think, for us.
Right. Well, maybe, Mike, they will call Coastal Carolina and ask them to wear the dark uniforms so we can wear those white ones that we wore at South Alabama, because they look dynamic.
A lot of Troy fans were upset when we wore white against Middle Tennessee State. I've heard that many comments about that.
I've always liked playing in all white.
What do we do?
We wore white at home against. We wore white uniforms at home against Middle Tennessee State.
Oh yeah, well, see that white uniform looked good on the road at South Alabama, and I'm sure they'll go to a different one. You know, something a lot of people don't realize, Troy has 4 or 5 sets of helmets. You know, they got a black helmet, they've got a white helmet, they got a silver helmet, they got a beautiful red helmet. Hey, that's 5 different helmets that Troy can wear. Troy can come out in 10 different uniforms. That's how many uniforms they have. They have 10 different uniforms that they can choose from. But last week, Forrest and I were sitting there, and it was just, I mean, they just looked so good, and they looked so crisp, and they looked so confident. If they come out believing like they believed this past weekend and get get a couple of touchdowns up or get a couple of breaks, they'll have a chance to win this game.
Even Troy is just like a box of chocolates. You don't know what team you're going to get, but they have had glimpses of being a really good, impressive football team, passing the ball. We've talked about the good running backs they have. Defense at times has looked much better. So, yeah. And then we've talked about Coastal Carolina obviously is going, well, there's a good chance they are going to have a major letdown after the BYU victory. So all the ingredients are there for Troy to pull off a big time upset.
Well, the biggest thing about Troy, though, you got to look at, they have not beaten a team with winning records.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big sign I look at. They beat nobody that even close to a winning record. I mean, South Alabama didn't have a winning record. Arkansas State didn't have a winning record. Eastern Kentucky didn't have a winning record. Texas State didn't have a winning record. Middle Tennessee State didn't have a winning record. I mean, Troy beat some really horrible teams.
You're right that they were not having good years. Let's say that. But
yeah,
you know, I felt like when they didn't play as well as they could have against Georgia Southern, I felt like Troy was much better than Georgia Southern, even though you know they run that option type attack. Troy just didn't have the football against them. They didn't have a chance because the defense couldn't give them the football.
Go ahead and call the upset down. It's Thursday. Go ahead and call it. You're going to say Troy's going to upset Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, he's pushing me. My son's pushing me to make this decision. Go ahead and get everybody around the television. Troy is going to beat Coastal Carolina. They're going to knock them out of being undefeated. They're going to knock them out of a possible New Year's Day game. But you know, the sad thing about it, I don't know if it even matters whether it's on New Year's Day or not. This thing's a shambles. This bowl situation, I could see a lot more bowls bowing out and shutting it down.
You know, something we haven't talked about, Mike, is how many players are actually going to decide to play in these bowl games. You can't make them play. Yeah. I bet we're going to have a flood of players that say, I'm shutting it down for the year. Y'all can play a bowl game, but I ain't playing.
LSU lost their tight end yesterday. He opted out. That's three of their top receivers.
Well, Troy gets in a bowl game. They don't have to worry about him leaving. It's 6 days away. They play in the Montgomery Bowl or the Camellia Bowl.
Yeah. And hopefully our guys are going to want to play in it. That could be a question mark there. They've been by themselves since before Thanksgiving, and the game on Louisiana Monroe is on a Thursday night, the 17th. That's over a month that they've been here on campus without any students.
Yeah.
So our marching band,
Yep, it's bizarre. I'm interested about how much interest is going to be in college basketball. The few games I've watched, there's nobody in these arenas pretty much. No cheerleaders, no pep bands. It's like watching a scrimmage. It's a very sterile environment. I think it's going to hurt the interest in college basketball too.
And some of the behemoths are losing big, like Kentucky and Duke have lost 2 or 3 games in a row.
And this, when can we get our shot?
Well, I saw some news that an official of the ADPH said that the first Pfizer vaccine is going to be administered in Alabama next week to healthcare workers. They got 40,000 doses that they can distribute, they think, in about a week. He did say that before the mass of the population, the healthy population, can all get the vaccine might be this summer. But to answer your question, they're going to start giving people the vaccine as soon as next week.
I would think that once they start doing that it's going to open up all the doors and there's going to be more and more opportunities to get the shot.
Governor Ivy has extended the mask order till the 22nd of January. She did that yesterday, or
Well, they don't have the doses. Yeah. It's got to be kept in extremely cold storage, and you don't have many places that can do that. And Pfizer only has 100 million possible doses, and there's 330 million people in America. So it's just going to take some time.
I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it on Facebook, and some people want to take the vaccine, some people don't want to take the vaccine. But you look at the numbers. There's 226,000 new cases yesterday. But like I mentioned before, 99%, almost 99.4%, are mild cases to people that are asymptomatic, to people that don't even know the virus. And then you have less than 1%, I think 0.6, that are serious, condition with the virus. But the 99.4 that's mild, asymptomatic, and if you take a vaccine, you take this shot, it's 95% effective. So, how do people look at, if they want to take it or not? How would you, what would you think about that? 99.4 to 95%?
I would take those odds any day.
I think it depends on. I think it depends on your.
95% to prevent you from getting it would be better than 99.4 that would be mild or asymptomatic.
Yeah, I see your point. I don't know if.
You're right. That does make sense. You're right.
And then another point you make is tons of people have had this virus now. It is on a big upsurge. And then we don't know all the people that were asymptomatic that actually had it that never got a test. So what would you say? I would say that 30-40% of this country is for sure already had the virus. Well, that means that those tens of hundreds of millions of people are already immune. If you've had the virus, the studies I've read said that you're going to be immune from the virus for at least 8 months. It has something to do with T cells more than antibodies. So there are a lot of, that's good news. There are a lot of people that even without the vaccine will not get the virus because they've already had the virus.
All right, guys, let's just go to our first full-fledged commercial right here. Just let y'all get a break, get a little coffee, and so glad Mike Amos is calling in from Great Beach. Mike Sr., you're truly calling in from Mountain Brook, Alabama, and also my good friend Forrest Lee from the studio there, and Bill Rice Jr. from the studio there. We hope you're doing well, and you're looking forward to a great holiday season. We'll be back with more of Today in L.A. after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. We'll thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Merry Christmas from Stephen Sanders Trucking. Merry Christmas from Wiley Sanders Truckline. Are you ready for these songs?
Yes, sir. Bring the toys to me.
Let's have fun. Merry Christmas. Let's have fun. Hurry, boys and girls. Hurry. It's what time of the year?
Christmas time.
And what do we say?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you from Wiley Sanders Truckline and Stephen Sanders Trucking.
Let's make this the biggest toy drive ever. Townsend's, Troy Cable, Trojan Detail. Those are your drop-off points.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Whitman.
We're back. Welcome back to our show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Today in L.A. with Mike Amos Show. I want to thank our sponsors, especially Mr. Jason Gregory with Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Troy, Alabama, and of course Troy Bank and Trust. And as a reminder, tonight Troy Cable will be hosting the Crenshaw County Chamber of Commerce Parade.
All right.
That's located in Luverne, Alabama. It will start at 6 p.m. and I will be there, and I'll have a co-host that will be there as well, Miss Sharitha Carter, and we look forward to that tonight. And on the phones, we have Mike from Mountain Brook, Alabama, in Birmingham, and his son Michael, who is at Grayton Beach, Florida. And this is Bill Amos to my right, and I'm Forrest. We're back, Mike.
And it's great to have everybody back, and we appreciate it.
You know, Dad actually Dad has a brother named Bill Amos.
Mm-hmm.
I sure do.
Good name.
And he lives in Charleston, South Carolina. You know, people, he's 12 years older than I am, and is at a facility there. Of course, it's a retirement facility, and seems to be doing well.
Is Joel younger than you, Mike, or older?
Who's that?
Joel.
Joel's older.
Joel is older. Joel
Okay.
is 3 years older. And of course, I graduated from high school in 1965. One of the great years ever.
That's the year I was born. You're right.
Was born and raised right here in this great city of Troy, Alabama. Would not trade anything in the world for growing up here in Troy and being Trojans, orange and blue.
What was it? What are some of the unforgettable events of your childhood, Mike?
Well,
the biggest stuff.
One thing to be able to be outdoors and go squirrel hunting and playing football in the front yard. That was a big deal. We always played football in the front yard, Gam's Ranch front yard on Orange Street usually, and we played Thanksgiving Day. We would have our big Thanksgiving Day game, a slow motion football game, and it was always a lot of fun. And on my team was Manley Johnson, one of the top economists in the world now, but he was playing football with us when we were growing up. And then Sonny Williford, the late Sonny Williford, was one of the great players of all time at Charles Henderson High School, and of course former decorated Marine, and we lost him just a few years ago. And of course Richard Williford, his cousin, first cousin, was also my best friend growing up, and we played together. They went hunting and fishing and rubber band gun wars, and we had a lot of fun and things going on our street. Of course, Charles and David Ingram were right next door, and John and Paul Key were right up the street. Danny Harris, those were some of the guys we ran around with, and Jimmy Shirley and Keith Chapman. Those are all guys that played in the front yard and had a lot of fun. Then my heroes, Cheryl Crow, if you're watching, was one of my heroes growing up. Ben Beard, I would call him one of my heroes, one of my best friends, and we were praying for him and his family.
Yes.
And of course, they lost their wonderful mother, and just growing up in town. And Ron Giddings was another one of my heroes. Ronnie Lindsay, boy, I love to watch Ronnie Lindsay play, and all Bullock, but I wanted to be Cheryl Crow, playing in the front yard. We get in arguments over who we could be.
It's funny. It's funny. Blake Crow always wanted to be me. I was his hero. My claim.
Well,
it's kind of embarrassing to be somebody's hero when you're the same age.
Well, I'll tell you the difference between me and all y'all was when I went in the game, the announcer said he is in the game, and when it was a big hit, big tackle made, he was tackled by him. That's when it's good, when you're a he or him.
Who was the PA announcer back in your day when you played at Charles Henderson, Mike? You remember?
What now?
Who was the PA announcer at Memorial Stadium?
Pappy Talbot. Bob
Pappy
Talbot
Talbot,
was
WTVF Radio.
He was a wonderful announcer. He had a show called the Pappy Talbot Morning Show, and he was also did the play-by-play of all the high school football games. And along with Asa Dudley, with Bob Talbot, along with Asa Dudley.
But who was the Rick Stetson that did the PA? And did y'all even have a PA system?
Well, we had one, but and I would think it could have been Jimmy Rowland. Somebody with a radio station would have probably been the PA guy. That's something I've never. I know the radio guy, but I don't know who did the PA.
Well, Troy was blessed with some great ones. Rick Stetson was.
Right now, what was your number, Rice? What was your number?
12.
Number 12?
Mm-hmm. Did y'all name this number?
Gentlemen, look, when I did the PA, I can remember so well, Rice, seeing you play high school football like here right now. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Number 12, Bill Rice Jr. enters the game for the first time tonight, and there goes the final gun.
That was exactly how it was.
Here's how Keith Snyder announced when I was playing. Keith Snyder from Goshen.
Yeah.
He said, "Coach, call timeout. Forrest hadn't come off the field all day. He needs some water. Call timeout."
He would tell, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
They used to accuse me of playing hurt. I'd be out on the field after a big hit, and I'd just lay there. And the trainers would come out, and the coach would come out and say, "Mike, you gonna be all right?" And I would say, "Listen, did they all see me out there? Did anybody see me out there?" And then when they say yes, well, then I'd get up and run off the field.
There are some characters that have been PA announcers, probably still are, that will say what is on their mind on the PA system.
Yeah.
Keith Snyder was. My friend Jim Outlaw did it a long time in Brundage, and I think he does it in Ozark now. But, I mean, they just say what's on their mind over the PA system.
Hey, there's a big...
You're right. And the worst thing in the world is to have a PA announcer that started doing play-by-play, over the PA. Now, that's the worst thing in the world.
The Army-Navy game... I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The Army-Navy game is this Saturday, and it will be held at West Point for the first time since 1943. Oh. And Morgan Sanders, who I taught in middle school physical education, his dad is a graduate of the West Point Academy, and his mother is Debbie, who married Steve Sanders from Goshen. But Morgan, when he would go every year, he'd bring me back a T-shirt. Now, I've outgrown those shirts, but they're still hanging in my closet. But Army, Navy, and I would imagine Army might be favored. They have a little bit better.
Well, Troy fans are going to get a chance to go up and see that campus in beautiful setting in a couple of years, because Troy has a several-year series with Army, West Point.
Let me tell you the story behind that. They have 7 games that will, over the next coming years. They could be 2030, but over the next 10 years, I know that Troy's going to play Army 7 times.
Wow. That's awesome. Whoever got
going up there 7 times.
Didn't we have Navy years ago for the Veterans Day game? That was a big game. A lot of fans at that stadium.
We beat them good here, but they beat us good there. So they. course, the Army's got the worst looking uniforms. God, they have ugly uniforms.
Army used to be a Navy too, a football power. You know the expression, the four horsemen of Notre Dame that are. That came from a story by Grantland Rice, no kin to me, the famous sports writer. 1924 was covering the Army Notre Dame game and wrote about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and that was four players for Notre Dame that just wreaked havoc and devastation on Army, which was the big power of the time.
I was looking at Troy's schedule for next year. They got Southern in Troy. They got Liberty in Troy. They're at Southern Miss, and then they're at South Carolina at Williams-Brice Stadium. You want to go ahead and call the upset for next year, Dad? Troy to upset South Carolina?
What was the first game you
Southern University.
Southern out of Baton Rouge.
First game. What?
Southern University.
Oh, okay. All right. Southern University of Baton Rouge. We'll win that
Then
one.
they have Liberty at home. They have Southern Miss in Hattiesburg, and then October 2nd, they travel to Williams-Brice Stadium and play in South Carolina. You want to call the upset? You want to call the upset of Shane Beamer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Beamer. I don't know. I don't know how good Troy will be. I hope they will be pretty good. I would say Troy could play with South Carolina without any problem.
You're listening to the guy that called the Troy BYU upset this year.
That's right.
Troy will play Army in Troy in 2022 on November the 12th. That game's scheduled to be in Troy.
2022.
Yeah, you might make that one. Then
2 years. That's just 2 years from now.
You know, Mike, getting back to my question about your youth, I loved your answer and all the people you talked about. I was thinking about, events like weather events or fires or stuff that you just always remember. Like when I was about 8 in 1973 in Opelika, there was a snowstorm that left about 9 inches of snow in Opelika. I don't know how much it left in Troy, but I will never forget all of that snow. It just snowed and snowed and snowed, never stopped. I mean, it came up to your knees.
Mother was stranded in Troy at the university, and Hank Jones drove her home in his Volkswagen because it was weighted in the back. He drove Mother home, and he was a student
I bet there
worker.
were a lot of kids sliding down that bank at Memorial Stadium on that snow.
Yeah, that was a fun place to go. You're right. I can remember those snowstorms. In fact, I can remember being snowed in Montgomery. I worked in Montgomery and drove to Troy, and me and the mayor of Troy were snowed in that night. And we couldn't get going until about midday the next day. It was terrible. Something like 10 inches of snow.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe 14.
You're talking about you and Jimmy Lunsford?
Yeah.
But
it's been a lot of great days. So a lot of great Christmases, and my mother made Christmas special. When I was growing up, and we all always had just wonderful Christmases, and with my friends. And hey, if we got candy and nuts, we were happy.
I remember my favorite gift was about
Troy will be playing UNA in basketball tonight, a must-win for Troy and Coach Cross. They've really struggled to start the season. You might as well travel up to Florence and go to UNA Troy tonight in basketball. I'm sure Carol Amos. I'm sure that'd be Carol Amos's worst nightmare.
Let me tell you this. At one time, Troy University had a great basketball team. North Alabama, which is Florence State, had a great basketball team. And Jacksonville State had a great basketball team. And another one that a lot of people might not realize that then was Huntington had a great program.
Mm-hmm.
And those were four real good basketball.
They had a famous basketball coach at Huntington, and Charles Bradshaw and I in 8th grade went to their summer basketball camp.
Coach Posey.
Yeah, at the Neil Posey basketball, that was the worst week of my life. I mean, they worked us way too hard, stayed in these unair conditioned dorms at Huntington, and I think after that I said, I don't want to play basketball.
Well, he recruited. He was a good coach, and he and Coach Archer had some real good rivalry games. And I was sitting in the gym one night where they were hanging from the rafters. Literally, Troy beat Huntington 126 to 124. How about that?
Yeah, that's a memory.
The Lady Trojans beat Chattanooga
I
yesterday.
can remember crawling underneath the fence to see Troy University play, and I saw Stanford beat them 80-0 one night. That was pretty bad.
I'll give y'all some trivia about North Alabama basketball. It might impress a few people. They had a legendary basketball coach, Coach Jones. I think his name was Bill Jones.
Bill Jones, that's right.
You know who Bill Jones' grandson is? Barrett Jones, the famous offensive lineman that played at.
Bill Jones that coached at Florence, or Bill Jones that coached at Jacksonville State?
I thought he coached at North Alabama.
That was him, and he was a great coach. Bill
He
Jones.
won a ton of games, and you're right. I remember that was the rivalry: Troy, North Alabama, back in the old Gulf South Conference days, and Jack State too.
And Jack State with another coach named Bill Jones, and you're right, all three of them. But Maestri came in there and played them tough every time, though, you know.
If Troy was playing North Alabama or Jack State at Sartain Hall, it was going to be, 2,500, 2,700, 3,000 people in there.
That's right.
Troy is a 6-point underdog tonight, according to scores and odds. You also have college football tonight. You got Florida Atlantic traveling to Southern Miss. Florida Atlantic 8.5-point favorite. Pittsburgh will travel to Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh is a 7-point favorite. You also have a really good pro game tonight. New England at Los Angeles, so you'll get to see the great Cam Newton. He's got the Patriots playing pretty good right now.
You know who's playing good for him, Michael, is Damian Harris, running back for Alabama. Is kind of overshadowed by Josh Jacobs, who actually beat out when he was at Alabama, but Harris is running better than Josh Jacobs right now in the NFL.
Got a lot of Bama
Dave,
running backs.
I've got a feeling starting running back that Troy's going. I got a feeling that Troy's going to get better down the stretch. Hopefully, and it doesn't really matter until you start playing conference games, and so forth. And hopefully that Troy team will be better, because on paper, before the season, ladies and gentlemen, we thought this was going to be one of the better Troy teams ever. Did you think that way, Mike?
Well, I mean, I feel like they have probably the most athletes, unfortunately, being athletic and being able to rebound and jump doesn't have anything to do with shooting. And it looks like we don't have any shooting again. That's my big issue.
Your sister and her husband and her precious daughter saw UAB beat Troy 24 the other night.
They went to that game?
Troy very good. My little 6-year-old granddaughter said she started shaking her head.
They went to that basketball game.
I'll say this, is we discovered Troy University basketball, rediscovered it last year. My kids, I've been away from Troy for a long time and came back, and I went to several games, and you know who loves it is my 4- and 5-year-old son and my 8-year-old daughter. They love going to those games. It's a lot of fun.
That's right. We've got that right here in Troy, and people ought to take advantage of it. And once we get these shots and everything, and we get back to normal, it's going to be fun. I hope that we can have some kind of basketball season. But from what you guys are telling me, though, the shots are going to not last very long. Is that right?
Well, it's going to be a long time before everybody can get them, and then you're going to have to get 2 shots, 3 or 4 weeks apart. And then you got to have enough people to take it to have herd immunity. But it's coming. And the other thing that we got in our favor is I can tell this virus is seasonal. It is going to spike in the winter, which is happening right now. So I would think by the spring and warmer months, it'll you know, it happened last year. You know, in retrospect, I would say, y'all tell me what you think. They couldn't have known, but it really would have made more sense to start the college football season at the normal time. Earlier, you would have avoided this.
I feel like they shouldn't have even started it until after the first of the year, to tell you the truth.
Well, you know, Coach K's come out now, Duke coach, and of course he's the legendary coach, and everybody listens to what he says, and he thinks they shouldn't even be playing. He's already been really critical about even playing basketball this season, so who knows what's going to happen on down the road.
No question about it. But Christmas is right around the corner, and of course, remember the Christmas parade in Luverne tonight. Forrest Lee will be over there. You got your Santa cap, Forrest?
No, I'll try to recruit and get me one, but it's tonight. We'll start at 6 o'clock from downtown Luverne, and it's called the Crenshaw County Chamber of Commerce Parade. They're the one who sponsors the parade, and Donnie Nix, we know Donnie, he's the president of that commerce.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward for Troy Cable Channel 2 to go down there and telecast it live. And my co-host is Miss Sharitha Carter. I've not actually met her, but we've talked on the phone 2 or 3 times. But there's another local connection down there that I know of, Miss Catherine Tomlin. She was a Campbell, grew up in the Vidette community near Dayron. And
well, you're talking to somebody that's covered more parades than anybody in America.
Yeah, Mr. Mike. So.
Mike, how many parades do you think you've covered in your career?
Oh gosh, I would almost say
200 or 300.
But probably 100.
I would say he has covered more parades than anybody in America. I mean, you've got the Macy's Day Parade, but that's just once a year. I know you're covering the Troy Appreciation Day Parade and the Christmas Day Parade and probably high school parades. So you're probably doing at least 3 or 4 parades.
A year
general coverage of events would be in the thousands at Troy Cable, I would think. Just think of today in LA, how many we've done of it. So we've as far as presentations, whether or not they were today in LA shows or the Bud and Amos, you remember the Bud and Amos shows and all that, it would be in the thousands.
Forrest, all Forrest has to do is say, how much do you weigh? How much do you bench? I know your mom and daddy, and that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a different telecast.
Yeah. Come in here.
I have people that come up to me and said, "Oh, you called my name out at a football game, or you introduced me, prior to football season, or I think." And there's thousands of people out there that have been either at an event that I telecast or.
Well, that was probably the first and maybe only time a lot of these people have been on TV.
Right.
You know, a lot of them are probably nervous when they get their 20 seconds or 10 seconds with you.
My favorite line is, "I don't want no trouble. I don't want no trouble."
But, one of the reasons that we did this, and the reason I was involved is I wanted people to be able to see their kids play, and I wanted for special events to be covered, that we'd have a record of it, and hopefully Troy Cable has kept all that information.
All right, we got some breaking news. Troy just got some bulletin board material. This is from one of our great sources, Chris Amos. It says the Coastal Carolina coach Jamie Tadwell said the Troy game is a useless game. That's some really good bulletin board material. As Coastal coach is basically already thinking about Louisiana Lafayette and the Sun Belt Championship game the next week. So that should get the players and coaches fired up even more.
Say that again. Say that again.
This is breaking news from our source Chris Amos, saying that Jamie Tadwell, the head coach of Coastal Carolina, has come out and said that the Troy game is a useless game. So basically, he feels like they shouldn't have to play it. So that's really good for Troy, to motivate the players and the coaches and hopefully the fans.
Right.
Motivated me.
When the Troy game was postponed earlier, Mike, what was the reason? Was it a Coban
it was Troy that had the COVID issue when the game was postponed, but that also gave.
It was Coastal Carolina that had the issue.
No, Troy had the issue, but I think it was very important for Coastal Carolina because it gave them another week to get ready for Appalachian State. So I think that was huge for Coach.
You know, I said this yesterday on the show that the game did not mean anything to as far as the conference showdowns and all that. You know, the important game to Coastal Carolina was the game for the championship against Louisiana the next week.
Did y'all see that the Big Ten did change their guidelines and it's going to allow Ohio State to play in the conference championship game with just 5 games, like we all expected that would happen.
They'll play Northwestern.
How's that fair to Alabama and Clemson and Notre Dame, all these teams that play 10, 11 games, and they're going to be in the playoffs with 6 wins? I mean, that just doesn't seem fair to me.
And then look at their wins. I mean, is any of them impressive to you, Michael? I mean, who they beat?
Indiana, they keep on trying to harp on Indiana this, Indiana that, but when has Indiana ever been good at football?
And they beat them by a touchdown.
They got beat by Tennessee in a bowl game last year. Indiana did. I watched that. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that's fair to these players whose bodies are beat up and injured. And I mean, shoot, Ohio State ought to be fresh out and win it all.
Here will be the biggest controversy if Florida beats Alabama, Clemson beats Notre Dame, then it's going to get ugly. Because I think those 4 should go if in that scenario, and Ohio State out. But that's going to be the scenario if that takes place.
What do you think will happen to Alabama if they lose?
I think it'll be Alabama, Florida, Notre Dame, and Clemson, provided Clemson barely beats Notre Dame. And if Florida barely beats Alabama, a 1-loss Alabama and a 1-loss Florida and a 1-loss Clemson and Notre Dame, I think trump a 6-0 Ohio State.
You got all kind of rematch possibilities. So, but I guess they could seed them where it would be Alabama versus Clemson, Notre Dame versus Florida.
Right.
Mike, let me throw something out at you.
And pull the plug on the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
You know,
give it to somebody else.
On Saturday, that the folks at Coastal Carolina will wake up in a hotel in Montgomery and still have 50 to 60 miles to go before they even get to Troy. Can you believe that? You know,
if you stay on Taylor,
on the bus, they'll have 3 buses full of football players that will bus to Troy that Saturday morning to play that game.
Well, I mean, if you stayed on Taylor Road and came to Troy, what would that be, 45 miles, maybe?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. I think they all stay downtown, Mike, at the hotel downtown.
The Renaissance?
They'll be from downtown Montgomery to bus to Troy. You know, that makes it pretty tough, you know, with 3 bus loads of players that have to go 60 miles before they get to the site of the game.
Mike, you might know the answer to this. I've heard that Troy lengthened the length of the runway at our airport several years ago.
Right.
That you can now have a commercial jet airliner that can take off and land in Troy. Do any teams actually do that? Fly into Troy?
I don't believe I've ever seen or heard of a team that did it. But you're right. They got the runway numbers now where they can. I want a 727 or something like that. You know.
You talking about at Kenny Campbell Field? Is that what that's called out there?
Kenny Campbell Field, yeah. Kenny Campbell Field, yeah.
Well, I've heard they could do that, but I have never seen a big plane actually take off or land at our airport. But I've heard you could do it.
Well, you know, Sanders.
They always said that the Beach Boys flew in one night, didn't they? What were they on?
Well, yeah, well, that was years ago. That was a private plane years ago. I've never heard of a big plane landing in Troy, but they're supposed to have the runway distance.
You know, there's probably some kind of safety regulations. To do that, you have to have ground support crews that could support an emergency or something like that.
Yeah, if you'll think about it, I can really understand why Coastal Carolina doesn't want to play this game.
Lafayette has an off week, so that's another big factor.
I also think you got a trap game with Alabama playing Arkansas. At Arkansas's not bad. And, I mean, they've lost 5 games, but they've been in every one of those games, I think. And Alabama, they can't be too interested in playing Arkansas with all the hype over the SEC championship game. So, Alabama needs to be a little careful, too.
I think they'll be focused. Where is the Sun Belt Conference championship game? Where will it be held?
It will be in Coastal, I would believe, because Coastal has the best record and is the highest ranked.
Okay.
But I don't know. That could change if Troy upsets them. Lafayette would be the higher ranked team, and the game would be in Lafayette. So I don't know. This is actually a big game for Lafayette as well. If Troy was to upset them, I think they would host, because usually the team with the best record in the league. Oh, but you know what? It'll be in Coastal regardless, because Coastal won head-to-head.
All right, Coastal, yeah. So
yeah, Coastal has already beat Lafayette.
How would you like to be Troy? This is a perfect setup for Troy. Coastal does not want to play this game, and they got to go to Troy. They're going to bust into Montgomery on a Friday, mess around there, and get up the next morning and bust to Troy another 50 or 60 miles and play a football game. I would think that team that was sleeping in its own bed like Troy will have a big advantage here. Troy will win the football game against Coastal and screw it all up again.
Do you think this will be similar?
Let me say it
to
one more time. Troy will beat Coastal Carolina.
Troy upset LSU and Orgeron, biggest win in Troy history by far on the road at LSU, and then they come back. You remember, and they played South Alabama on a Wednesday night. And South Alabama came in and beat Troy. Troy missed like about 4 or 5 chip shot field goals and just played a horrible game under Neil Brown that night.
I was there.
You could see that happening.
Yeah. Don't you see that this is a trap? This is a trap. What do you think, Forrest Lee? What do you think?
Be in the game by halftime. You got a shot.
Yeah.
Be in the game at halftime.
It's going to be a
Punch
great
them in the
game.
mouth first play.
I mean, Troy's got the athletes. It's just a matter of can Coastal come in and give Troy about 3 or 4 turnovers. Is what I feel like is going to happen. For Troy to win.
Whether this is good or bad, the sun is always in the face of the visiting team. Always remember that. The sun is always at Veterans Stadium is in the face of the opposing team.
I don't know. I feel like I know we're going to be picking games tomorrow. I feel like this game's going to be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, I think so too. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, tomorrow right here on this show, it is Premier Dodge Chrysler Jeep and Ram Truck picks of the week, and I'll let you know who's going to win in college football tomorrow. So make sure that you tune us in and hear my predictions. The big upset, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody now is screaming about, going up, the telephones are ringing everywhere, is Troy. The Trojans will win Saturday playing host to Coastal Carolina, and Coastal Carolina will play in the championship game the next week with 1 loss.
Hey, listen, I want to make a point about Mr. Ben Beard, who lost his wonderful wife, Joan. Ben Beard gave Troy Division I athletics. He was the man most responsible for it. And think about how that has changed the public perception of Troy University. Now also think about Coastal Carolina. Had any of us ever even heard of Coastal Carolina 5-10 years ago? I never had.
Not until they won the national championship in baseball.
So then they go Division I, and now everybody in America, because of their football team, has heard of Coastal Carolina. I mean, what is the value, marketing value of Division I football for Coastal Carolina?
Well, I don't think the basketball team's lost either.
They had a billionaire that started the program.
Well, you got a golfer, Dustin Johnson, alumni.
I didn't know that.
That's what I meant to say. They had a billionaire that when the Sun Belt Conference was looking to add 2 more teams or 3 more teams to their conference, they had to have some kind of pull from somewhere, and this billionaire from Coastal Carolina, who was their coach at that time,
TD
put up
Ameritrade.
some money or something, but for him to have gotten Coastal Carolina in the conference as a 1A team.
Is that the billionaire that also coached the team?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Magla is his name.
Magla.
That is an amazing story. I mean, he bought and started the football program. And not only did he do it, he coached it. I don't think he'd ever coached, and it turns out he was a very, very good coach. And now look at where the program is.
How did he make his money?
Their first season was support. There was a lot of financial support for Coastal Carolina in that situation, and he provided it.
Their first season was in 2003. Their overall all-time record is 137 and 77. They've made it to the playoffs in FCS 6 times. They've won 7 Big South Conference titles.
Awesome. I'd really never heard of them. And they've got a nickname that nobody else has ever heard of that makes them stand out.
But they made a name for themselves, and hopefully that the players will have the same opinion of the game that the coaches has, and we catch these guys in a big Trojan trap. I tell you what, you Troy fans, if you want to see a thriller, come on out Saturday and see it. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early for the show, and of course the biggest show, and Forrest Lee will be there. Bill Rice.
Well, I'll let y'all. I haven't been picking on the coaching show. I'll let y'all have it tomorrow. The picking show.
We'll let you be a
That's
guest.
up to you, and of course we look forward to seeing you back on our show, and we're glad you're here. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed our show. You see us again today at 1:30, but tune in tomorrow morning. Forrest Lee for Today in LA, and Premier Dodge Chrysler Jeep picks of the week, right?
And watch the parade in Luverne tonight.
Right, 6 o'clock, downtown Luverne.
Remember those Ram trucks? Everybody.
Yeah, ask people in Luverne tonight why y'all are so friendly. Why are y'all the friendliest city? What makes y'all so friendly?
The friendliest city in the South, Luverne, Alabama. It's a great town, great people.
My dad, let's see, is he ready to close up there?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said wrap it up. You know, going back to Luverne, we got just another minute, but my dad's a graduate of Luverne High School. He played for Jocko Norton, and after Jocko Norton left, Glenn Daniel took over. And I think Coach Daniel's in his 90s now. Want to wish Coach Daniel a great day, and all the people of Luverne and Crenshaw County. I'll be there tonight, and I'm looking forward to it, and I may go down the road and eat some of the best chicken ever made. And we all know where that is, the Shack.
Well, Colin, go ahead and tell us that great restaurant.
The Chicken Shack. I just wish they served Sundrop, but, you know, the Pepsi-Cola place right across the street. But thank y'all for joining our show, and we'll be back in the morning. And thank you for joining Today in LA with Mike Amos and Michael in Grayton Beach. And this is Bill, and I'm Forrest. Thank you for joining us.
Merry Christmas from Stephen Sanders Trucking. Merry Christmas from Wiley Sanders Truck Line. Are you ready for these
Yes,
songs?
sir. Bring the toys to me. Merry
Let's have
Christmas.
fun.